Ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities and identities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who Unbound review. And today's Unbound is Masters of War. What is Masters of War about? Well, it continues on from Sympathy of the Devil. The Doctor and Alistair have just left planet Earth, and essentially, after beating the Master, they go on a couple of adventures, each one more dangerous than the one before. But then suddenly they land on a planet, and the planet that we all in the Doctor Who fandom know very, very well, the planet Skaro. And essentially what happens is the Daleks are up to their old tricks again. They've conquered the planet, they've been enslaving the inhabitants, and the people on the planet, the Thals, have been subjugated to an occupation. And essentially the Doctor is absolutely enraged by this, and he tries to help them overthrow their dictators. And of course, with a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of tetching, they manage to overthrow the Daleks. But before they do that, the Doctor is intrigued by the fact that Davros seems to be constantly on the monitors. He's never heard of Davros, this incarnation of the Doctor, and essentially he's really confused by who he is. Upon more investigation, he realises that Davros seems to be getting the Daleks to learn lessons in each video. A little bit like a children's show, you might say. And essentially they call them unified and keep going on about them becoming thing. And after overthrowing the Daleks, a ship begins to appear in the distance, and it's coming for Skaro. And the Daleks begin to plead and cry and whinge towards the Doctor and the Thals, pointing out that they are the less aggressors compared to who's about to come. And, of course, after all of the uprising and the Doctor pretty much brainwashing a Dalek into believing it is Davros, the real Davros turns up. But he just doesn't turn up alone. He turns up with a race known as the Quanch. Now, the Quanch is an alien race that believe the Daleks to be an adversary to them, and of course have been planning for many years of getting back at the Daleks. But little does Davros know, of course, the fact that the Quanch are the whole reasons the Dalek and his accident happened in the first place. A million years ago, the Quanch came to Skaro, a little bit less advanced, and pretty much tried to intervene and take over the planet. But of course, because of the chaos going on the planet during the industry and the fact of the Thals being more of the imperialists at the time, it turns out that the only way for them to conquer the planet Skaro was to cause a war. This war turned into the Great War, in which both sides could never truly remember why they were fighting each other. And eventually, most of the Thals were extinguished. The ones that survived ended up going off into the hills and having to come up with tablets to survive the radiation, while the Khalids got trapped in their bunker. Meanwhile, whilst the Khalids were down in their bunker and Davros was devising a way to destroy the Thals once and for all, he came up with an idea for a rocket, and essentially that goes into Genesis. But that's the gist of it. Now, back into the future, Davros is working along with the Quanch, this enemy that he has pledged for many years to destroy, and the Doctor and the Thals begin to break into their mothership and constantly bombard them with attacks. They have to use Dalek squadrons and Thal squadrons to break into the facilities. But of course, the only key left to this revolution is to get Davros on their side. The Doctor and the Brigadier break into the Quanch spaceship and get a hold of Davros and pretty much tell him the truth about what the Quanch did to him. Upon Davros finally having a revelation and realising that this is very true and all of their technology just sums it up, he begins to agree to work with them. After working with the Doctor and everyone else, he stays behind along with the Black Dalek, in which he sacrifices himself to save the Daleks and the Thals from the Quanch regime. So what did I think of this two-part story? Honestly, I love it. The fact that you don't know straight away that Davros is ever going to be in this, because the one question this whole audio begins to sum up is Davros really real? Is he? You don't know at the beginning of this audio. You really don't know. You believe that maybe he is a made up myth. Maybe he's just something the Daleks have orchestrated to keep their regime going across the galaxy. But of course, after the whole incident in this audio with a Dalek being classified as the blasphemer, it starts to raise questions that maybe some generation of Daleks do know that Davros really exists. Were there when he first created the first Daleks on Skaro? Uh, in the second half, though, I also love the idea that the lore has been slightly altered. The idea that maybe Skaro didn't just naturally wake up one morning and go, "We're going to have a war." The idea that they could have been manipulated by puppet strings from another species. It just very rings true things that have happened before. And for that reason, I am really, really solidly happy with this story. Although I love the idea of them changing the law and essentially rewriting a lot of stuff and coming up with an explanation for why the war happened, I do feel like, though, I prefer the original concept of the Khalids, the Thals, and the Mutos just being stuck in an outrageous war that has happened down to politics. So I kind of feel like I would have still enjoyed this audio if they'd just stuck with the whole idea of, was Davros really real? You could have still had him turn up at some point, but with a different idea rather than this whole manipulation of the planet. That's just my personal opinion. But overall, I mean, the characterization of the Doctor and the Brig and the Thals is brilliant. It reminds me of the Peter Cushing movie. It reminds me of the first Dalek episode. It reminds me of the Genesis episode and a lot more different Dalek episodes. And also the fact that Davros points out in this the idea that maybe the Daleks aren't exactly what he hoped for. It has been clearly established in most Doctor Who lore that we have the renegade Daleks and then we have the original Daleks who were loyal to Davros. And the renegade Daleks have always been pointed out as rogue. They are emotionless. They win a lot of their battles because they have no mercy. Whereas the original ones kind of show more compassion and have they use people as servants essentially. So they're still no better than the others, but they will more likely keep someone alive, whereas the renegades will absolutely just annihilate most people. Also, the idea of the Unbound Doctor not knowing who Davros is a very good idea. I love when characters meet people for the first time, especially when it's these well-known enemies. And for that reason, I give Unbound Doctor Who Masters of War a solid 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next Doctor Who review. Goodbye for now.